Hey, what is up everyone? It's Danny, and in this tutorial, I'll be teaching you everything you need to know to get started programming in Python. I teach programming at Google Developer Student Club at the University of Ottawa, where I'm currently completing my 4th year in computer science. So one of the questions that I often get is, why Python? Why learn Python compared to languages like C++ and Java as a beginner? Well, I think there are 3 reasons. First, Python is considered one of the easiest languages to learn. Second, it is very popular at tech companies. And thirdly, if you're interested in machine learning and artificial intelligence, Python is the best language in this field. In fact, ChatGPT is built in Python. So these are the topics that we will be covering today. We're gonna go over things like variables and loops, and you can find the timestamps for each of these topics down in the description below. So without further ado, let's go ahead and install Python. There are 2 options for getting Python. You can write it straight from the web, like onlinepython.com, and run it. Once you finish writing the code, you can save your file and you can also upload your file to continue working on it. The second option is to install Python on your computer and use a text editor like SUBLIME or Visual Studio Code to write your program. Now, I already made a separate video for this part and linked it down in the description below. So if you choose to install, go ahead and follow the steps in that video. When you're ready, we will start writing our first program in Python. In this tutorial, I'll show you how to write your first program in Python, and we're going to print out something on the screen. So once you have your Sublime or Visual Studio Code open, we're just going to type in print or print in parentheses, then double quotes, hello world. Now we need to save this file, so I'm going to click Ctrl S and save it inside this folder here, but you can save it anywhere you like. And I'm going to name this file as helloworld.py and click save. Our file is created inside this directory. Now go ahead and click on this path here and Ctrl C to copy this path. And then go to command prompt. We're going to go into this folder with CD and then paste the path with Ctrl V. Once you click enter, type in python helloworld.py and it will print out hello world on the screen. 2 useful things you need to know are \t and \n. So let's say I go here and I type \, which is the key above your enter key, and then n. What does this do? Well, this will skip down a line, so let me show you what I mean. In the command prompt, I don't need to type out python helloworld.py anymore. I just click the up arrow key, hit enter, and as you can see, it prints out hello, and then skip down the line, and then a world. How about \t? Well, \t puts a tab between hello and world. Basically, it inserts a few space between hello and world. So let's see. And the result is that you see a few extra space between hello and world. Let's try printing out your name and age on the screen. So here we have 2 variables, name, and let's say name is equal to Tom, and age is 20. We can say print name, and then print age. So when I run it, it prints out hello world, Tom, and 20. But I want to do something more fancy. I want to say, my name is Tom, and I am 20 years old. Again, we're going to type out print, and then F, my name is, and we're going to have this angle bracket to insert the variable into this print statement. I am 20 years old. And as you can see, it prints out, my name is Tom, I am 20 years old. In this video, I'm going to show you how comments work in Python. So comments have 2 usages. The first is to tell Python to ignore a line of code, and the second usage is to explain what your code does. Now let's go over the first usage with an example. Here we want to print Python is easy, and then C++ is fast. If I want to tell Python to ignore the first line and don't execute it, all I have to do is put a hashtag in front of the first line, and you can see that it gets grayed out. I save the file, and I'm going to run it. The result is C++ is fast, and the first line is completely ignored. If I want to put it back, all I have to do is delete the hashtag, save the file, and run it again. This time, it prints out both Python is easy and C++ is fast. As mentioned before, the second usage is to explain what your code does. So you can also do something like this. You put a hashtag on a new line, and then you say, this line prints out Python is easy and C++ is fast. The purpose of this line is to explain what the code does. Sometimes you write very complicated code, and for the next person to be able to work on that code, they need to understand what is going on, and comments will help you with that. And another thing I want to show you is how to create multi-line comments. The first way is you can put multiple hashtags on each line, or there is a simpler way. You can just put single quotes like this, and everything in between these single quotes are considered comments in Python. So you can say something like this line of code does A, B, C. And this entire thing will be ignored in the execution. So let's say we want the user to enter in their name. The function to do that is called input. And let's tell the user, please enter your name, and then print out the name. Once I run the file, you can see that it asks you, enter your name. Let's type John, and it prints out John. The next thing we want to do is ask the user for their age. We have an age variable, and this time we also have an input. Please enter your age. Now, one thing to note is that age is an integer. So we have to put the function int in front, and actually put input inside the int so that it will convert the input into an integer. And as you can see, we now have both John and 20 as his age. There's one more thing I want to show you about the input, which is getting a decimal instead of an integer. So let's say we want the user's height, and the height is equal to float, and float is basically a decimal as opposed to an integer. So float input, enter your height in meters, and then print the height. So we have John, and the age is 20, and height is 1.9, for instance. So there we go. That's all about the input. And in the next video, we will talk about strings, booleans, and data types. Hey everyone. In this video, I want to talk to you guys about variables and data types. So in math, you have x and y's as variables, but in Python, you can give it any name that you want. The four most popular data types in Python are integers, floats, which are decimals, strings, and booleans. So we're going to go over each one and see what they do. Let's say we have a is equal to 3. This here is an integer, and in order to check this, you can print the type of a. The type function will return whatever type this variable a is. In this case, it is an integer. Here you can see that the class is an integer, and Python writes int for short. An integer can also be negative. So let's say a is equal to -2, and just print out a. A float is basically a number with a decimal. So let's say we have b is equal to -2.5. The way to distinguish between an integer and a float is that it has a period. Now let's see what it prints out as its type. In Python, a decimal will be represented as float. There is a way to convert a float into an integer, and all you have to do is put the number inside the int function. So when you convert a decimal into an integer, you basically just get whatever number before the period. This will output -2, and the type is an int. I think now is also a good time to show you how to swap variables. So let's say you have a is 1 and b is 2. How do we swap it so a becomes 2 and b becomes 1? Well, here's the syntax. A comma b is equal to b comma a. you can see that A now becomes 2 and B becomes 1. The third data type we're going to cover are strings, and you can think of strings as text. So for example, you have A is equal to 1, but this is not an integer. To show you that it is text, you can print the type of A, and it should output a string. So in Python, a string will simply be str, which is short for string. A common bug that I think a lot of beginners might encounter is adding text to an integer or a float. So for example, you have b is equal to 2, and then let's say we take a plus b. It will result in an error saying that you can't add between a string and an integer. So that's because this is text and this is an integer and they're not compatible with each other. The solution here is simply to remove the quotation marks, so you have integer and integer. And as you can see, it's able to print out 3. Let's try putting some words into a string, like C is equal to John. You can also do single quotes like this, and that would be absolutely fine. But in other languages like Java, it wouldn't like the single quotes for multi-letter strings. And at this point, you should know how to convert between an integer to a string. So let's say you have C is equal to 1. Now this here is an integer, and if you want to convert this to text form, you can do str like this. So str is a function that converts any data type into a string. So we print out C and also print out its type. Next up, I'll show you how to concatenate strings. That basically means you add strings together. So let's say you have A is equal to John and B is equal to Doe. Now actually, I'll put a space here and you will see why. So if I print out A plus B, the result should be John Doe. And if you remove the space, it will actually stick together. So it will be John Doe without a space in between. String concatenation can also be done on the same line. So you have John plus Doe, and it will give you John Doe. You have to become familiar with what is called indexes. In this string here, the first index is always 0. So J is at index 0, O is at index 1, H is at index 2, and even the space has an index itself. So the space will have an index of 4, the D will be 5, O is 6, and E will be 7. Now, if you want to access, let's say O, then we print out C at index 1, and this should output an O. It is not possible to change the O to a different letter because strings in Python are immutable, meaning that once they are created, they cannot be changed. So let's say I want to change the O to an A, like this. Now this will not work in Python, as I said before, because strings are immutable. But let's say you want to change the O to an A. Then the way to do it is to use string slicing. We want the J first. So to slice a string, we just cut it apart like bread, right? So we want the beginning of the string up until the index 1, but not including index 1. So this will print out J. Yep, it does. And then we want the rest of the string starting from H. So plus C and beginning at index 2 until the end of the string. Now this will give you J, H, and Doe without the O in between. But let's say we want an A instead. So we plus an A. And now you can see we have John Doe with the O changed to an A. What if you only want part of a string? So let's say we want from this O to this O. We want this part of the string. A part of a string is called a substring. That's the technical word for it. We will begin at 1 until 7. So the syntax here is starting from 1, which is this O, and up until 7, but not including 7. So 7 is an E, but we're not including the E. And there you go. We have the substring. If you want to check to see that John is inside the sentence, then the syntax for it is John in C. And the answer is yes. So if we run it, you can see that it outputs true, which means yes in Python. Now if I change this to a Jill, then you know that Jill is not inside the sentence, right? But what if we say Jill not in C? We're asking Python, is Jill not inside the sentence. And the answer should also be yes. So as you can see here, it prints out true. The last data type we're gonna cover today is a Boolean. And a Boolean is a data type that only has two possible values, so true or false. So let's say D is equal to true. We print out the D, and we also want what type is the variable D. And command prompt says that the value is true, and the type is a Boolean, or bool for short. We can also change this to a false, and if we run it again, it would now be false. So that covers the 4 most popular data types in Python, which includes integers, floats or decimals, strings or text, and booleans. So an operator is like the plus sign in 3 plus 4. So this should give you 7. You can also do the minus sign, the multiplication sign, which is not the X, it is the star sign. So you can find it by holding down Shift and click 8 at the same time. There is also division. And note that in all programming languages, there is no such thing as dividing by 0. So if you divide by 0, you will get an error. Let's go ahead and run the file. So as you can see, we get 7 for 3 plus 4, -1 for 3 minus 4, 3 times 4 gives you 12, and 3 divided by 4 gives you 0.75. Now let's go over some more complicated symbols, such as the modulus sign. So if we have 3 mod 4, then the modulus sign basically gives you the remainder. So you know that 3 divided by 4 gives you 0, and the remainder is 3. So this will give you 3. Now you also have integer division. So basically this means 3 divided by 4 gives you 0.75, and you round down. So once you round down, you will get 0. And another one I like you to know is the exponent sign. So the exponent sign is not this one. It is double star. So this means 3 to the power of 4, which gives you 81. So we run it again, and indeed, here we get a 3 because 3 is the remainder once you get 3 mod 4. 3 divided by 4 gives you 0.75. You round down, and it gives you 0, and 3 to the power of 4 indeed gives you 81. It is super important that you know the difference between the equal sign and the assignment operator. So what is the difference between the 1 equal sign and the double equal sign? Well, let's consider the 1 equal sign. In Python, this is actually not the equal sign. This is called the assignment operator. So imagine that A is a box, right? And the box, we put number 3 into the box. So that's what this 1 equal sign means. Now the double equal sign is the true equal sign. So you're basically asking Python, is 3 equal to 4? The answer is no, right? And then it takes the no answer and it puts into a box called A. So once it prints out, you will see that it prints false. The opposite of the equal sign is the not equal sign. So this is the not equal sign. And you're asking Python, is 3 not equal to 4? Yes, 3 is not equal to 4. So this would be a yes answer. It takes the yes, it puts it into a box called A, and when you print it out, it will be a true, like this. The greater or less than equal sign also exists in Python. So if you print 3 is larger than 4, this will print out a false. If you print 3 is less than a 4, this will be true. And similarly, you can do greater or equal, or less than or equal. And as you can see, the first one indeed prints out false, the second one is true, the third is a false, and the fourth one is a true. There is one more operator that I'd like you to know in Python. So if you have, let's say A is equal to 3, what does it mean if you take A plus equals 1? Well, this will be a 4. We're going to save it and we're going to print it out. So as you can see, it prints out a 4. Basically, this means you take 3 and you plus 1 and it gives you 4. So if this is a 2, then it takes 3 plus 2 and it gives you a 5. Now, this syntax is the same as saying A equals to A plus 2. It means the exact same thing. So let's go to the beginning. A is 3. Now a plus 2, it looks inside the box and a is 3. So 3 plus 2 gives you 5. So that's the way it works. I know that in math this doesn't make sense, but in programming this would make total sense. Let's run the program, and indeed it prints out 5. And instead of saying plus equals 1, you can also do minus equals 1. So this will give you 2 because 3 minus 1 is a 2. And similarly, you can also do a is equal to a minus 1. This will also give you a 2. So these are the basic operators in Python. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and also subscribe if you haven't already. And also, let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below. Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, we're going to talk about string methods. String methods are Python built-in functions that allows you to do various things, like reversing a string, or converting a text from normal case to lowercase, or finding the number of letters inside a string. So let's say we have a string s, and s is Python is awesome. Now, to find the number of letters inside the string, we're going to use a method called length, and this returns the number of letters inside the string s. And we're going to store it inside a variable n and print out n. And as you can see, the command prompt says that there are 18 letters inside the string. Python is awesome looks like a title on a textbook. So if you want to convert this to a title, you can use the Python built-in function title. So s is equal to s.title and then print s. So let's see what it does. And as you can see, it basically just converts each letter of the word into its capital form. So Python is awesome. And now you can put this on a newspaper or the title of your book. And similar to title, we also have something called capitalize. Now, capitalize, the only difference here is it only takes the first letter of the entire sentence and capitalize it, and it keeps everything else in lowercase. So we run it, and it looks like I misspelled capitalize. And there you go. Let's do it again. And now, as you can see, it capitalizes the first letter of Python and keeps everything else in lowercase. You should also know the lower and uppercase methods. So s is equal to s.upper, and this will make everything capitalized. How about lower? Well, let's make this first word capitalize. And when you run it, you can see that it makes the entire string into its lowercase. So you might be wondering, why do we have to do s is equal to s.lower? And why can't we just do s.lower by itself? Well, the reason is, it takes this, right? It converts into lowercase, and then it puts it back into our original variable s. If you just do s.lower by itself like this, then it does not put the updated form back into the variable, and therefore when you print it out, so let's print it out, it will not be in its lowercase. You can also check to see if every letter inside the string is in lowercase. So let's make this lowercase, and the function is called isLower, and we're going to put it inside s. And here it says that all the characters are in lowercase, but there is one problem. You see, s is a string, right? But now once we print out s, it's no longer a string, but it is a boolean. So in order to fix this, simply change the variable to something else, let's say a boolean or status, and then we print out s as well as the status. Now you can see that s is Python is awesome, it stays the same, and we also know that the status is that all of the characters are in lowercase. The opposite of is lower is upper. And as you can see, it prints out false because not all the characters are in uppercase. 3 important methods that you need to know are isOwnum, isAlpha, and isNumeric. So let's see what each one does. IsOwnum is a method that returns true when all of the characters in our string are either alphabet, such as A, B, C, or it is a number. Now, it will return false if there is a space. So let's see, we have Python 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we run isOwnum, and our result is true because our string contains either letters or numbers. What happens if we add a space? when we add a space, it will return false. In our definition, a space is not an alphabet or a number. Is alpha returns true if we only have alphabets, and it doesn't matter if it's uppercase or lowercase. So in this string, it will definitely return false because number one, it has numbers, and number two, a space is not an alphabet. So let's remove those, and let's say the first letter is capitalized. Now when we run it, we will get a true because all of our letters are indeed alphabets. And the last one is numeric. So is numeric returns true when all of the characters are numbers. Now note that the period and the minus sign doesn't count. So let's say we have 245. This will return true because all of the characters are numbers. But what if we add a minus sign, like negative 245? This should output a false, and if you have a decimal, let's say 0.5, it will also be a false. Let's say we have a string. I love apples. Apples are my favorite fruit. And you want to count the number of times the word apple appears inside the sentence. So the method for this is called count, and it returns an integer. So n is equal to s.count, and we want to know how many times we have the word apple. So we print out s as well as n. So here is our string s, and we know that the word apple appears 2 times inside the sentence. Another useful method is find. So instead of counting how many times a string appears inside a sentence, you can find where that specific word occurs inside the string. So we want to know in this string, at which index does the word apple appear? Now, again, remember, the first index is always 0. In this case, it's going to be index 1. The L is index 2. So up until here, we see our first occurrence of apple. So apple will appear at index 7. And there you go, we have 7. Now note that it only counts the first occurrence, but not the second one. How about finding the word banana? So obviously, it doesn't exist inside the sentence. So what will this return exactly? It will return -1. So -1 indicates that the word doesn't exist inside the sentence. Let's say that we want to replace the word apple with the word banana. So we want to change our string s. So s equals s.replace. We want to change apple to banana. And there you go. Now you have I love bananas, and bananas are my favorite fruit. I want to show you just 2 more methods. The first one is stripped. So let's say somebody enters their name and they type in Susan. But the problem is they also put a few spaces in the beginning and at the end. So in order to get rid of these spaces, you use the method strip, and it will get rid of that for you. Here you can see Susan without the space, and if we don't have this, so if we comment this out, you will see that it has a space. I also use the method split quite often. So we have a string s of apple, comma, banana, and comma, coconut. And you want to split this into a list. And you want to split it based on a comma. So let's see what this does. When we print it out, our s will stay the same, but now we get a list called apple, banana, and coconut. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to work with lists. So a list is a collection of items. Let's say you have a shopping list, and you have apple, banana, and coconut. We're going to print out our shopping list. And here you see apple, banana, and coconut. If you just want to get one of the items, let's say you want to get banana, then you need to know the indexes of a list. So like strings, the first index is always a 0, this is index 1, and this is index 2. So you can see that there is an order to it. We're going to get our banana and type in shopping list at index 1. And there you go. Not only do we get our list, but also our banana. We're going to type in the function type. And this will give you the difference between shopping list alone and then shopping list at index 1. So we run the file. And as you can see, the first one is a list. But the second one, once we access an index, you can see that banana is a string. So that's why here it says string. What happens if we try to access an element that is not inside the list? So let's say we want to access index 3. But it is obvious that there is no index 3. So if that's the case, we're going to get an error saying that list index is out of range. That basically means we're accessing an index that doesn't exist. One way to fix this error is simply to add another element. Let's say we add durian, so durian will be at index 3. However, this is too easy, and I want to show you a more standard way to do this by using a method called append. So if I do shopping list.append durian, then this basically puts the word durian at the end of the list. So let's run this program, and as you can see, when we print out our shopping list, it will have durian, and also we get the item from index 3, and it will also be durian. So instead of adding at the end of the list, is it possible to add it in the middle of the list or at a certain index? And the answer is, of course. That method will be called insert. So let's say we want to insert the word durian at index 1. So we will put 1 and then durian. So when we print this out, you can see that durian gets put in the second place. And the second place would be index 1. And so this is index 0, this is index 1, this is index 2, and this is index 3. The opposite to insert is remove. So let's say we want to remove banana. All we have to do is type shopping list.remove and banana. So now you see that our list only has apple and coconut. A similar method to remove is pop. So if you just do pop, it basically just gets the last element inside the list. So let's say we pop and we store an item. Now what is the last element inside the list? We're going to print out the item. And when we run it, you can see that coconut is no longer inside the list, and we know that the last element is coconut. You can also use pop to get a specific index. So let's say you just want the element at index 1. So this should technically remove banana. And as you can see, indeed that banana is no longer inside the list, and we know that our item here at index 1 is banana. So up to this point, you know how to add an element, you know how to remove an element, but do we know how to change an element or edit it? So let's say we want to change banana to something else. We can do shopping list at index 1 is equal to coconut. Now that we run it, we see that coconut is indeed at index 1, and you can see that it is okay to have duplicates inside a list. If you want to clear your entire list, you can do shopping list.clear, and your list should turn up empty. So the brackets like this indicates that there are no elements inside the list. So we have been working with strings inside a list so far, but did you know that we can also have numbers and other variable types? So let's say here we have a list of numbers, 4, 2, 6, and 7, and their respective indexes. But you can also add in other data types like true and false, and you can, let's say you add a string apple. But for the sake of this example, let's just keep it with numbers. If you want to sort a list of numbers, you can use the sort method. So numbers.sort. And as you can see, now we have 2, 4, 6, and 7. What if you want to reverse the list? The method will simply be reverse. And when you run it, you should get 7, 6, 2, and 4. Now, I'm going to show you how to add two lists together. So if you want to add numbers and shopping lists, then the concatenation symbol is simply the plus sign. So numbers plus shopping list, and the result should be 4, 2, 6, 7, as well as the rest of our shopping list. You can also store your result inside a new list. So we will create a new list L, and L equals to numbers plus shopping list. And when you print out L, you will get the exact same result. Another useful feature of lists is that you can check to see if something exists inside a list or not. So let's say you want to check to see if banana exists inside the list shopping, right? So it will be banana in shopping list. And then let's say we also want to check if coconut is inside the shopping list. Now the first one will obviously return true, and the second one will return false. Let's change it up a bit. Let's say now you want to ask Python, is coconut not inside the shopping list? And the syntax for that would simply be not in shopping list. And now both of these will print out true. And of course, when we run it, we get true and true. Let's sum up what we just covered with list. So list is a collection of items, and it has an order to it because you have the indexes like this. And you can also change an element, you can remove or add an element, and that's what I mean by changeable. and a list can also contain duplicates. Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, I'm going to show you how to use for loops in Python. So loops are used to repeat an action for a number of times. So for example, let's say you want to print out the word hello 10 times, and instead of copying and paste 10 times like this, you can just use a for loop. So a for loop is very simple. You just write for I in range from 0 to 10. This means you want to repeat this action 10 times. And we're going to print out hello. Let's save and run the program. And as you can see, the word hello is printed out 10 times. Now, instead of printing out hello, we can try printing out the variable I. So what exactly will this do? Well, let's find out. So when we run this program, you can see that I starts at 0, and then I will increment to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So what this for loop does is that it prints I from 0 to 9. And notice that it does not go to number 10. That's just the way it works. This means that I represents the current step inside the for loop. Now what you can also do is change the name to something else. So instead of writing I, we can write number and change this to number as well. And when we run this program, it will do the exact same thing. As an exercise, why don't you try to print out from -2 to 4? So go ahead and pause this video and try, and then we'll go through the solution together. Okay, are you ready? So when we say print from -2 to 4, we're basically saying print from -2 to 4 inclusively. But in Python, it works a little differently. So we start at -2, and we're going to go up until 5. And this represents exclusive. So this is what we're going to use. So for I in the range from -2 to 5, and we execute it. So now you can see it starts from -2, as it should, then -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. For our next example, I'm going to show you how to increase the step size. So let's say we want to print out 0, then we increment by 2, we get 2, then we increment by 2 again, we get 4, 6, and 8. And the step size here would be 2. So here we start at 0, this would be 0, then we want to go up to 8. So for this number, just say 9. Just say the number right after what we want. And then the default size is 1. We want to change this to number 2. And as you can see, when we run this program, indeed we get 0, 2, 4, 6, and 8. How can we print the numbers in reverse order? So let's say we want 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and 0. So we start at 10. So the first parameter is 10. How about the second parameter? Well, you might be tempted to write 0, but this is actually wrong because we never write this number in directly, right? We always write the number right next to it. So here the order is 1, 0, and the next number right next to it is -1. So this is the number that we want to write in. So this is -1. And what is our step size? We are decreasing by 1. So the step size is -1. And here you see that it starts from 10, then it counts down 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. And we're almost done. But I want to show you 2 more things. So let's say we print 0, 1, 2 up until number 10, but we do not print number 3. So basically we skip number 3. How can we achieve this? Well, it's very easy. So we start at 0, and then here we're not going to write 10. We always write the number next to it, which in this pattern, it would be 11. So this would be 11, and the increment size is 1. But remember, we don't write it here because that's the default. To skip number 3, we're going to say if I is equal to 3, then we skip it. So the keyword continue means to skip. If it's not 3, then we print out I. So once we run it, you can see here it starts from 0, 1, 2, then 3 is not printed. And it just continues on to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. A variation of this problem would be to print from 0 to 10, but exit from the loop at 3. So here it would be if I is equal to 3, then we break out of the for loop or exit from the for loop. But if it's not 3, then we're going to print out I. And as you can see, it starts from 0, it prints 1 and 2, but when 3 is reached, it exits out of the for loop, so it does not do anything else. So what exactly happens if you have a nested for loops? So here we have a for loop for I in range from 0 to 5. We're going to print out the value of I. And then we have another for loop inside this for loop, which is for j in the range from 0 to 3, and then we print out j. So basically what happens here is we're going to do the following 5 times. We're just going to print out 0, 1, and 2. And we do this 5 times. Here, when I is 0, we're going to print 0, 1, 2. And then when I is 1, we're going to print out 0, 1, 2 again. And then it's going to repeat this until we get to I is equal to 4. It's going to print out 0, 1, 2, and that's pretty much it. The last thing I want to show you about for loops is to print out a list. So let's say we have a list. Here is apple, banana, and coconut, and here are our indexes. So at index 0, we have apple, at index 1, we have banana, and at index 2, we have coconut. So to print out all of the items inside our list, we do for I in range from 0 to the end of the list, and just say length of list 1. And then we're going to say at index I, we have this item. So let's save the program and run it. And as you can see, here it says at index 0, we have apple, at index 1, we have banana, and at index 2, we have coconut. Hey everyone, in this video, I'm going to show you how to use while loops in Python. So while loops is something that you can use to repeat an action as long as a condition is true. And it's very simple. So in this example, we have I is equal to 0. And while I is less than 5, we're going to print out I and increment by 1. So let's see what this does. So let me explain what's going on here. At the very beginning, we have I is equal to 0. Is I less than 5? Yes, 0 is less than 5. Now it's going to print out 0. So it prints out 0 here. And then it increments I by 1. So 0 plus 1 is 1. Now the loop repeats. Is I less than 5? Yes, because 1 is less than 5. So it prints out 1. So it prints out 1 like here. And then it increments 1. So now we have 2, and it repeats this until 4. So it prints out 4. Then 4 plus 1 is 5. Then it goes back into this while loop. So is 5 less than 5? No, it's not, right? So it's not going to print out 5. And there you go. This while loop here prints out from 0 to 4. What happens if we put an equal sign here? So while I is less than or equal to 5, we're going to print out I. And once we run the program, you can see that it also prints out 5, right? So it's going to print out 5, and then 5 plus 1 is 6. Then it goes back and it realizes that 6 is not less than or equal to 5. So it's going to end here. And when you see that you include the equal sign, it actually prints out the number 5. A common mistake that I think a lot of people make when they start out programming is they forget to include the I plus 1. So if I remove this and I run the program again, you can see that it actually just prints out 0 and 0 forever. So you can see that the terminal is still executing. So let's end it by pressing Ctrl C. Now, the reason why this is happening is because I is equal to 0, but you're never increasing it. So this condition is always true because 0 is always smaller than 5, and that's why it's printing out infinitely. You can also increase I by 2 instead of increasing it by 1. So when I run this program, it should print out 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. And there you go. This is the output. Now just note that it prints out 10 because I include the equal sign here. But if I remove this equal sign, then it will not print out number 10. So far, I've shown you how to print out numbers in increasing order. But how about decreasing order? Well, let's see. We start at 5, and while I is greater than 0, we're going to print out the number and subtract I by 1. So theoretically, this should print out 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So we clear the terminal and we run again, and as you can see, it prints 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. If you want to include 0, all you have to do is just put the equal sign in. As an exercise, we can try printing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and forever. So that would be I is equal to 0, or rather here, I should add 0 at the beginning. So I is equal to 0, and while true, meaning that this condition is always true, so it will execute this forever. So we're going to print out I and then increment by 1. So as you can see, in the command prompt, it prints out the number and it keeps increasing forever until I have to stop it by pressing Ctrl and C. I also want to show you how to skip a certain number. So we're going to print out 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, but we're going to skip number 5. So in this while loop, we're going to start with I equal to 0, and we're going to increment I by 1. So right away, when we print it out, it will print out number 1, and we will never print out number 0. And then we're going to ask Python just to wait for half a second. The real question here is, how can we skip number 5? We can do if I is equal to 5, then we continue. So basically what's happening here is, if I is equal to 5, then we will not execute these 2 lines. We just continue on to the next one. So the continue basically just means we go back into the loop, and then we have 6, right? So this is not 6. So it's going to ignore this, and then it's going to print out 6. So let's run the program, and you can see it prints out 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, and so on. So number 5 here is skipped. Besides the word continue, there's also another keyword called break. So what happens if we break outside of the while loop? Well, let's see. So it's going to print out 1, 2, 3, 4, and once it reaches 5, we're going to break outside of this while loop. So we're going to exit this while loop, and we're going to end up here. And it prints out 1, 2, 3, 4, and indeed, it prints out hello. Let's do a simple game. And in this game, after the user finishes playing, we're going to ask them if they want to continue playing or if they want to exit from the game. So first of all, we're going to have a variable called play, and we set play equal to true. And while play is true, or rather we can also write while play equals to true, but this is more of the shorthand way. Then we print out the game starts and wait until the game ends. We ask the user, do you want to play, yes or no? If the answer is no, we set play equals to false. We print out thank you for playing. So once play equals to false, it will no longer repeat this while loop and just exits from the while loop. Let's just say yes, and you can see it repeats itself. So the game starts and the game ends. And let's say we want to play one more time, and now we actually say no. So it exits outside of the while loop and it prints out thank you for playing. Hey, what's up everyone? In this video, I'm going to show you how to use if, else if, and else statements in Python. The reason why you want to use if statements is to perform a certain action based on a condition. So let's say we have level equals 100, and if the level is at least 100, then we will print out you are boss level player. And as you can see, it prints out you are a boss level player because this condition is true. Let's make level equal to 75 and add in some more if statements. So if the level is greater or equal to 50, we print out you are a mid-level player. And if it is greater or equal to 25, we print out you are a low-level player. As you can see, it prints out you are a mid-level player and you are a low-level player. But according to our logic, we only want to print out you are a mid-level player. So why is this happening? Well, the reason why this is happening is because it will consider this if statement first, and the condition is not true. So it will move to this statement, and yes, it is true, so it will print this out. And then it moves to this one, and this condition is also true, so it will print out you are a low-level player as well. To fix this issue, all you have to do is use else if. So we just add in el, and elif basically means else if. And do the same here. Let's run the program again. And now you see that it only prints out you are a mid-level player, and it does not print out you are a low-level player. Let's see why this is happening. So first, it will consider this statement, and the condition is not true. So it will go to this one. Here, the condition is true. So it will print out you are a mid-level player. The difference between the normal if and the else if is that once a condition inside the else if is true, then it will print out this one and it will skip everything else. So it will skip the rest of the else if, and that's why this one here is skipped. So I hope everything made sense so far. Now let's try to change the level to 10 and see what happens. When we run the program, it does not print out anything. And that's because it considers all three of these if and else if statements, and none of the conditions are met. So that's why it does not print out anything. To fix this, you need to include an else statement. And we'll say print, you are a beginner. Once we run the program again, you can see that it prints out you are a beginner. So this means that an else statement will perform the action when none of the other conditions are true. Write one if statement to print out you get bonus HP and rewards if the person is a VIP or an admin. So let's say we have a variable called status, and status is equal to VIP. If the status is a VIP, and we use the in operator here, so VIP or an admin, then we shall print out you get bonus HP and rewards. And indeed, the program prints out you get bonus HP and rewards. Now we want to print out no rewards if the person is not a VIP or an admin. So to fix this, all you have to do is add in the not keyword. We can change status to something else, let's say beginner. Here we change to no rewards. When we run the program, it will say no rewards because beginner is not a VIP or an admin. Another way to solve this problem is to say not status equals VIP or status equals admin. So this right here will do the exact same thing. And it prints out no rewards. In computer science, when we say not A or B, this here is the same as saying not A and not B. So if we say if status is not equal to VIP, and we use this symbol here, and status is not equal to admin, then we will say print no rewards. We can also remove this one here. And when we run this program again, it will also print out no rewards. And this formula here is called De Morgan's Law. And there is one more. So if I copy and paste this, if we change the OR to an AND, so not A and B, this will be the same as saying not A or not B. So these are some useful properties to know, and it can be particularly helpful to understand if statements. Let's go ahead and do one last example for today, starting with age equals to 18. So I guess we can remove all of these comments. So age is equal to 18, and if the age is greater than or equal to 18, and age is less than 120, we will print out you can play this game. Now note that the shorthand way to writing this can be this. So simply if 18 is less than or equal to age and less than 120, it will print out you can play this game as well. So let's run the program. And you can see that it will print out you can play this game twice because both of these conditions are met. Hey, what's up everyone? I hope you guys are having a great day. In this video, we're going to discuss how to use functions in Python. So a function is a block of code that runs when we call it. And it is very useful because we can use functions as many times as we want. So let's consider an example. We have a function named print menu, and you can name this to anything you want. We're just going to call it print menu. And what this is going to do is it will print out the menu. We have a $5 hamburger, a $3 hot dog, a $2 coffee, and then a $1 ice cream. So let's see what happens if we call this function 3 times. As you can see, the function will print out our menu 3 times. The reason why this is useful is because you only need to call one line instead of having to write all of this 3 times. So if we don't have any functions, then we will have to write this and copy and paste, and we have to do it 3 times. So let's get rid of that tab, and we have to do 3 times. And you can see that this gets messy very quickly. So that's why it is much better when you use functions. For our next example, we will write a function that determines if a number is even or odd. So the first step is to include the keyword def, and def means to define a function. So we define a function called check even or odd, and it accepts a number. Now note that instead of saying number, usually we just write n because it is way shorter. We will have if n mod 2 is equal to 0. If you remember from our lecture on operators in Python, what does this symbol mean? Well, this here is the division symbol, and this here means to divide and get the remainder. So if n divides 2 and we basically get the remainder and the remainder is 0, then we know that n is divisible by 2. So if n is divisible by 2, then we know that it is even, right? So we return a string called even. Else, we return odd. To call this function, we will say check even or odd and pass in 2. And because the function is returning a string, we need a variable to accept the string. So we'll have result equals check even or odd, and then we print out the result. And let's go ahead and do this again for number 7. So copy and paste here, result 2, and change this to 7. As you can see, for the first one, it will print out even because 2 is an even number, but for 7, it will print out odd. Now, instead of storing our result inside a variable, what you can also do is just put this function inside a print statement like this. And we do the same for 7. So what happens here is this is going to return a string and it will be printed by the print statement by default. If we run this program again, it will also print out even and odd. And I think that this is a much cleaner way to write it. Let's create a function that acts as a calculator. So we have a function calculate. It will accept two numbers, a and b, as well as the operation that we want to perform on a and b. If the operation is a plus sign, then we will return a plus b. If it is minus, then we will return a minus b. If it's multiply, then we return a times b. If it's divide, now here we have to be careful because if we have division by 0, we can actually crash the program, and we don't want that. So if the denominator is 0, then we just say that we have an invalid operation. Else, we can return a divided by b. And this is the way to call the functions. First, we want 3 divided by 0 just to see what happens. And secondly, we have 5 plus 4. As a result, the first one will return invalid, and the second one will return 9 because 5 plus 4 is 9. Next up, we're going to write a function that accepts a list of numbers and it finds the sum. So our function will be called find total, and we have our list as a parameter. We also need a variable to keep track of the total. We run through our list. So for each number inside the list, we're going to add that number to our total variable and then return the total. So let me explain what's happening here. So first we have total equal to 0 at the very beginning. And then for each number, right? So we start at 3. And then this operator means to add to our total. So we have 0, then we add it to 3, then we have 3, then we'll add our next number. So we plus 7, this gives us 10. And then we're here, so 10 plus 2 gives us 12, and 12 plus 1.2 is 13.2. Let's run the program. And as you can see, it does print out 13.2. One last example for today, and I'm going to show you how to use default parameters in a function. So let's say we have a function called welcome, and all it does is it prints out welcome and the name of the person. So here we have a variable called name, and name by default will be set equal to valued customer. This means that if we call the function without passing anything in as an argument, then by default, it will print out welcome, and then it get this, put into the variable, so welcome valued customer. If we actually pass something in as an argument, so here we pass in John, then it will not use the default, but instead it will accept John, so welcome John. And as you can see, the first one, it will print out welcome valued customer, and for the second one, welcome John. So that brings us to the end of our journey for learning Python for beginners. After this, you should take a course on Pygame, which is a tool that will help you create actual games with graphics. So let me know in the comments below what kind of games or projects you guys plan on building with Python. And finally, don't forget to subscribe and share this course with your friends, and I'll see you again in the next course.